Welcome to the Italian Renaissance, where the clothing is so fabulous, even the underwear is extra. So let's make some. Like most other historical eras, the base undergarment for all genders was the shirt or camicia. This is a voluminous, long-sleeved garment made usually of linen. The camicia is generally where you want to start when building your Italian Renaissance look. It's fast, relatively simple to make, and great if you're a complete beginner wanting to hone your hand sewing skills. Not that you can't do this on the machine if you want, just make sure you zigzag those pesky raw edges. I, however, am doing things in the complete opposite order, having made my first Renaissance look this time last year without even bothering to make one at all. TLDR, I didn't think I would revisit this era, but I kind of love it, so we're changing that. You want the finest, nicest, whitest linen you can find that would be appropriate for the class level of the impression that you're wanting to do. Since piecing is period, you can opt to use the nice linen for the top and the sleeves, which will be visible, and use cheaper linen for the bits that are gonna go under your clothes. So I don't technically have enough fabric. I only have 3 yards of this handkerchief linen, and the pattern calls for 3 7/8 of a yard. If that sounds like a lot, it is. And that's because this one size fits all pattern is actually quite large. For example, this is the sleeve, and it's about twice as wide as I would normally cut for a 17th century or an 18th century chemise or shift. So that's something you need to keep into consideration, especially if you're someone that doesn't fit that one size fits all. You may need to buy even more fabric or do what I do and piece. To clarify, since the Italian Renaissance is not my era, I'm following precise instructions from Margot Anderson because I happen to have the pattern handy from doing Renaissance Morticia last year. But this is just squares and rectangles. You do not need a pattern for this. So my modifications to compensate for the lack of fabric are twofold. Mainly my regular 5.3 ounce fabric store linen that I have on hand. It's a slightly different color, and it's also thicker than the handkerchief linen, but it's under my arms and I don't really think anybody's going to be paying that much attention. And it can't hurt to have a thicker, stronger linen in the pits, if you know what I mean. I also had to piece it, so I managed to get one gusset out. And yes, this is a huge gusset. This gusset is literally as big as my head. So I had to piece the second one because I didn't want to cut a fresh, unwashed strip off of the leftover of the linen that I have in my stash. A little bit of creative piecing here in the gusset, and hopefully it's comfortable enough. Nobody's gonna say anything about it, and if they do, I'll kick them. So that leaves me with something like 67 inches to play around with for the actual body of the camicia. This is normally where I'd give you a detailed rundown of what size pieces you need to cut for this project. But things happen later in the video that significantly change things. So just hang with me a bit. I promise I'll give you the full rundown of pieces later in the video. So what I'm gonna do is cut it shorter than the pattern calls for. The pattern says that I should cut out a rectangle that's 40 inches long. I'm quite short, and the camicia is supposed to go to mid-calf, and I don't really think it needs to be that long, especially for me. So I'm gonna cut 2 30-inch panels for the body, and then the sides, I will have that 60-inch by 17-inch piece to use for the side panels. So I'm thinking that's gonna hit me right around the knees. If it's too short, then I'll just piece on some more of my stash heavier weight linen. So I'm gonna go get the rest of that cut off screen because nothing is more boring than watching somebody pull threads for an hour. The sleeves are supposed to be either a 20-inch by 28-inch square or a 20-inch by 38-inch long rectangle. The 28-inch then equals the width of the fabric, not the length. So how I'm gonna remember which end is which is the selvage edge is the length of the sleeve and the cross grain is my width. That's helpful for me. Not sure that's helpful for you, but that's my hot tip right now. So as of right now, I'm cutting 2 60-inch panels and having one 30-inch panel for the body of the camicia. Me, not you. You're smarter than that. Since adding the gusset is the most confusing part of any shift, camicia, or chemise, let's tackle that first. Here's the length of the sleeve, and here's the width. I decided to label them just to help my sanity. Measure down 10 inches and make a mark. Do the same for the other side of the sleeve. Match the corner of your gusset to one of the marks and pin. Wait, Jackie, what are you doing? What are you? Yeah. I told you it was confusing. The right way. Pin the first side of the gusset to the side of the sleeve. Pin the adjoining corner to the other side of the sleeve. The gusset should make a V with the point connecting directly onto the seam of the sleeve. I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. If you're wondering why I no longer look like I'm sitting in a dungeon and why I might be a little echoey, it's because I'm spending the holidays with my family, not in Texas. And once again, a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed over on my Ko-fi page. You're a huge reason why I'm able to continue making videos, and I very much appreciate it. If you're finding this video helpful and would like to help support this channel financially, please consider checking out the link below. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe and let me know down in the comments what your New Year's resolution is, or if you think New Year's resolutions are just plain silly. Or if you have a silly New Year's resolution. Mine is to try at least 20 new kinds of cheese by the end of the year. I really like cheese. This is what they mean when they say one size fits all. It's very wide. So I did the calculations and it's about 148 inches all the way around. Now this is where things get a little bit weird because this isn't going to go together the way that those shifts and chemises of later eras do. So let me go show you the weird quirks. So this perplexed me a little bit, but now that I figured it out, it makes sense. The reason that the gusset is so big is because unlike in later shifts and chemises that have a nice little shoulder strap, the sleeve of the Camicia is also the shoulder strap. So it doesn't just fit from here under the arm, it fits the entire shoulder as well. Comme ça. So that's why the gusset is so big, because you need it to be big so that you can, you know, move your arms and stuff. Next weird bit, placing the gusset. Wow, this thing is hard to wrangle. Find the center of your side panel. Mark it. We're going to cut in the center of the side panel down 12 inches. Which seems really counterproductive to me because that underarm point is the point of the Camicia that is going to get the most strain and the most wear and tear, and we're actually making it the exact weakest point of the entire Camicia because we're cutting it down just without a seam. But you know what? If this is how they did it, then this is how they did it, and we'll give it a shot. And if I end up ripping it because I'm running around waving my arms like a crazy person, maybe I'll add an extra seam. Does this look like a whale to anyone else? Oh, I don't want a sleeve! I don't want a sleeve! I don't want a... Pin the gusset into the mouth of the whale. Make sure that the second V, or point of your gusset diamond, is sitting in the V of the whale mouth. Gusset inserted. Next was endless hemming, first the edges of the sleeves, and then the huge voluminous neckline. I did most of the hemming on the drive to Newman's Castle, which is an actual castle located a little bit north of Houston and the venue for the Tournament of Defense, which is an annual fencing and costuming event that happens the first week of November. This year, I made a lighter weight, less fancy version of my Morticia gown to wear at the tournament during the day, along with this Camicia. The tournament's a great event, and if you live in the region, I highly recommend checking it out. I've linked to the event page down below, and as a special treat during the reveal, I'll give you a glimpse of the castle that I filmed during our tour of the grounds this summer while I was sewing this. But sadly, not of the actual event because it rained and it was disgusting and we were all very sweaty. There are a lot of different ways that you can finish the neckline of your Camicia. You can gather it down to a neat bound edge, use self ruffles, bind it and add lace, use smocking techniques, embroidery, blackwork. The options are endless because unlike future eras, they were meant to be seen. Whatever the option you pick, the concept is the same. You'll want to gather the neckline and the tops of the shoulders down to the width that you desire. I wanted something fast and frilly, so here I'm opting for the self-ruffle method. I'm running 2 sets of basting stitches along the whole neckline, 1 inch away from the edge. I opted to do the front, back, and each shoulder separately to make the gathering a bit easier. Now, simply pull the gathers of each section until it fits the way you'd like. Camicia necklines had a wide range of heights and widths in this period. Thanks. I hate it. There's so much fabric and it's so unwieldy and chunky. If I'm gonna use this as my Camicia, then I'm gonna have to make my dresses a size larger just to accommodate the mass amount of linen that's getting stuck underneath it. It doesn't need to be this wide. So even though this is the very last thing I wanna do, I'm gonna take it apart and reassemble it without the excessive side panels. In fact, I'm gonna take those side panels, I'm gonna put them on the bottom because this thing is like mini skirt length. Nothing like completely undoing hours and hours and hours of hand sewing right when you're about to finish a project. Am I right? Side panels have been removed, added to the bottom, and the Camicia reconstructed. And since my mic's not on and I have no idea what the heck I'm saying right now, let's get back to the gathering stage. The machine gathers were very difficult to keep together while fitting the neckline. So this time I'm opting to do a whipped gather instead. Fold the ruffle portion over, right sides together, and run a wide whip stitch just along the edge. Every few inches, pull up the thread to gather. You'll have a neat, controlled ruffle. Once the neckline is adjusted how you like, cut strips from your linen or use twill tape to secure the gathering from the inside. That's so much better. Still nice and voluminous, but I don't look like I'm wearing a balloon. Yay! So why did the instructions say to make it that wide? It does state in the directions that because superfine linen is so rare and costly, most reenactors opt to use cotton batiste or cotton voile instead. So my theory is that if you're using something as lightweight as a voile, the result won't be quite as bulky. I think that the gathers would gather down neater and smaller and not so moo-moo-like. But my 3.4 ounce handkerchief linen that I'm using is not so fine. So now, in this awkward late stage of the video, here's a breakdown of the actual pieces of linen you need to cut for your Camicia. Measure from your desired top of the neckline down to where you want your Camicia to end, somewhere between the knees and mid-calf. Cut 2 panels, 54 to 60 inches wide to this length. If you've only got 45-inch wide fabric, go ahead and cut 3 panels. If you're using very fine fabric, like voile, or need a larger circumference, go ahead and cut that extra 30-inch piece for the body of your Camicia, like we did in the beginning. Then cut 2 10 by 10 inch gussets and 2 sleeves 30 inches by 28. Again, you can add more width if you need it. Also, if you're on the taller side, the 28 inches might not be long enough. So go ahead and measure from where you want the neckline to start on your arm down to your wrist and add a few inches. More length will give you more poof. And you know how we feel about poofy sleeves on this channel. You'll then seam the sides instead of cutting down into the linen, leaving 12 inches at the top to insert your gusset. The rest of the construction will be the same from here. Now the instructions have a gazillion different options for finishing the neck edges, but it has precisely 0 options for finishing the sleeves. Why? I don't know. But what we're going to do is we're gonna finish the sleeves the same way as we finish the neckline and be super ruffly. The believe it or not, that is the end of the construction. Super fast. Or it would have been if I had known what you know and hadn't had to construct the whole darn thing twice. That's it for me. If you missed the video where I made my Venetian Italian Renaissance Morticia, feel free to check out this video here on the screen. Thanks for watching. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.